Romania, the land of contrast. A rich cultural heritage stifled for decades by communism. A wealth of natural resources stolen by dictators. A resourceful people gradually becoming a part of modern Europe, while minorities face crushing poverty. The Roma people are an ethnic minority commonly called gypsies. The government says they comprise 2.5% of the population. But the actual number may be higher. Oppressed for centuries, today they remain on the margins of society.
In Oradea, we try to help them by providing them homes where to live. We try to put them in different centers, give them a place to live, they go back. So, I don't know, it's very hard. We try, and we have lots of partners from different countries trying to help them deal with these problems. Some attempts are successful, some are not that successful, but we keep trying because they are our people.
%90 of the abandoned children in Romania are gypsy. This changes the problem because they come from a different environment, they come from very abusive home, and reintegration is many times not good for the children. The other problem is that there is still a big prejudice of Romanians against Roma, against the gypsy. They still prejudice gypsy. For instance, if a family comes for adoption, first condition they always put is, I want to adopt, just I do not want to adopt a gypsy child.
Child abandonment remains an epidemic, driven primarily by the Roma population. Although conditions in some hospitals and institutions have improved since the 90s, the system remains inadequate and overwhelmed. Some children are forcibly returned to their birth families, where they face even worse conditions.
During students' years, when I was in university, I did a lot of volunteer work in hospitals and state orphanages. And after working with the children there, I realized that doesn't help them very much. They need a total change in their life, like 100% change in their life. Otherwise, it's in vain, everything I'm doing. And I do not like to do things just for the moment. I want them to really help children on the long term. And the actual system is weak and poor because it addresses Romanian children, and most of abandoned babies are gypsy children. So I decided to take children in my own apartment for a full recovery and start their papers so they can be can move on a permanent home, either in their birth families, either in an adoptive family. And in order to do this, I started a foundation, Hope House Foundation, and I took the first group of children in '96, 7 babies from the hospital. It was difficult because I was alone. I had to do the babysitting, the mom, the social work, the director, and the executor too. So, but God helped me, and I moved on.
Well, I was 18 years old when I first decided I wanted to go on a mission trip, and didn't really know where I wanted to go. I just knew I wanted to go somewhere for some length of time, and my father introduced me to a Romanian pastor who was a friend of his, and I met with him in the United States, and he invited me to come to Romania. He didn't really have a specific idea of what I would be doing there, so I decided to go for a 5-week trip at first, just to check out the territory and find out what I could do. And I went on my first trip there in May of 1996 and stayed for 5 weeks. I stayed with an American missionary, and on my 3rd day in Romania, she introduced me to Karina Kaba. Karina at the time was in her early 20s, and she just started her orphanage ministry in a small apartment. In fact, it was her personal apartment. She had 2 bedrooms, and she had 7 babies all in this apartment. And
it was basically like a 2 or 3 room apartment that, my guess is 600 or 700 square feet of American space, and there were babies everywhere and women walking around holding the babies, and Karina in the middle of all these babies, Jamie in the middle of all these babies, and you could just see that there was love and attention and care going on, and to see, these kids who I knew where they would head otherwise. I'd been there and seen where they'd head otherwise, and to see them being rescued from that was incredibly satisfying.
so I stayed with Karina almost every day during that 5-week period, and just really fell in love with what she was doing. And was so impressed by her spirit, by her tenacity, by her real love for the children, and how she was just pouring out her life on their behalf. And I was also so impressed to see the changes in the children themselves. They came from a state hospital and were just in such a terrible state of neglect and emaciated and far behind in their development. And in just a few short weeks, you could see the change, just from normal care, just from being held and fed and loved. They just started to blossom, and they caught up so quickly in their development, and that was amazing to me. I had never seen anything like that before. And I also saw very clearly that Karina was almost entirely on her own. I mean, she hardly had any support. It was one of these things where she would not even know where the food was going to come from next week, but she would pray and something would come up where food would be provided. So when I returned home, I got the ball rolling to incorporate a little nonprofit organization, and God began to just provide one step at a time. Our first fundraising goal was really to build a new orphanage building for Hope House, for the ministry that Karina had begun and had housed in her apartment. She had a long waiting list of babies who weren't able to come because she had such a tight space, and it only took until December of 2000 for it to be completed and for them to be moved in. So pretty much right away, they were able to double the children that they were ministering to.
Tens of thousands continue to wait without families and without a future. Hope House's ministry is just as needed today as ever. The destination for every Hope House child is a loving family. But in 2004, Romania changed its laws, making adoption nearly impossible for some children. Hope House decided to begin providing foster care, so these children could still grow up in families. Today, in addition to the children living at Hope House itself, the private foster program supports and supervises dozens of children in long-term families.
Aurica Ștef, sunt asistentă maternală, am 4 copii, unul e adoptat, 3 în plasament. Cea mai mare că îs drăguți, e sănătoși în felul lor. N-am avut probleme prea mari, n-am fost cu probleme. La școală, satisfăcător, chiar bine. A fost cel agreat de toată lumea, iubit. Mi s-a început să le cucerească inima la educatoare, la toată lumea. Pe aia, la școală, pe Mire l-am dus la liceul de artă. Prima problemă, profesorul de vioară nu a vrut să facă cu el, că e țigan. Mi-a zis în față că mai întâi sănătatea lui, dar mi-am explicat, e copil înviat, e al nostru, indiferent că e țigan cum e copilul meu și nu o să aibă probleme cu el. Au făcut primul an numai orele lui, după aia am dat particular, l-a primit, a văzut că face față și la nivelul celorlalți. Acum chiar e mândru de el. L-a băgat în concert anul ăsta. Nistor și pe el l-aș fi dat la o școală mai specială. Nu mers la liceu, dar l-am dat la o școală normală. Toată că grădinița mea a dat hârtie să mergem la o școală. Doamna învățătoare îl adoră. Îl adoră.
For a child who has been abandoned, abused, or neglected, the family is the ultimate place of healing. Thanks to the ministry of Hope House, hundreds of formerly abandoned children now know the love of a real family.
True religion is this, is to help the widows and orphans in their need. And there's nothing better than this. With the help of people just like you, Hope House has made a difference, rescued and transformed the lives of hundreds of children over the years. And it can continue to do so and reach even more children with your additional help today. If you're feeling called to help, there are several ways you can do so. First, you can sponsor a child. For just $1 or $2 a day, you can sponsor a child, and this amount would allow us to feed a boy or a girl in Romania fully for a whole month. Over 79 cents on every dollar goes directly to the ministries in Romania to feed and clothe and house abandoned children, children who will otherwise not have any hope at all. Second, you can help us reach new people. You can hold a fundraiser in your home or your church or your community. And finally, and this isn't a trite request, please pray with us. These children have real needs. Children are in a hospital in critical condition at times, and the prayers of God's people have been proven to be effective. Please consider becoming a part of the team of Romania Reborn.
There are tens of thousands still waiting for a family. Thanks to the ministry of Hope House, these children and hundreds of others like them now have a home, a hope, and a future. With God's help and the help of those who support us, we'll keep working to bring more of them home.